There is no light down there. You are 2,500 meters below the surface. The sun left you long ago. In fact, it left you at about 200 meters, and after that it was already gone. The pressure is 250 atmospheres. That means roughly 250 kilograms pressing on every square centimeter. The water is 2 degrees Celsius. You have no chance to warm up, and you do not need one because you are no longer really built for this world. Either you have already been crushed, or you are about to be part of this video. Do you remember how you got here? The descent begins with the death of color. First, red disappears at only 5 meters. Orange lasts a little longer and gives up around 10 meters. Yellow survives to about 20 meters. Green fades at 30. Only one color remains. The color that makes the ocean look blue. But even that gives up at 200 meters. After that, there is nothing. No day, no night. Only darkness all the way down to the end of the world. You are inside that darkness at 2,500 meters. And down there, in the place where theory said life should not exist, something is moving. Thousands of things are moving. February 17, 1977. The submersible Alvin descends into the Galapagos Rift. The mission is tectonic plate research. The expectation is mud rock, maybe a few bacteria. Nothing important to discover because the formula was clear. No sun, no photosynthesis, no food chain, no life. Alvin itself is basically a small titanium sphere. Inside it is just a little over 2 meters wide. 3 scientists fit inside, and fit is not really the right word. Fold themselves inside is closer. One of them, the geologist Jack Corliss, pushes himself through a narrow hatch and feels something immediately. The hatch is not much bigger than he is. The descent takes an hour and a half. Through the window, the first thing you see is blue, then black, then something darker than black. But what appeared on the camera erased that old formula. Giant worms, mussels, fish, crabs, all gathered around a hot vent at 2,500 meters deep, without a single ray of sunlight reaching them. There was one problem with the team. There was no biologist, because no one expected to find life. The people on the mission were geologists, geochemists, and geophysicists. They were tectonic plate specialists. No one had thought about how to preserve living samples, because no one imagined there would be living samples to preserve. But now they had giant worms in their hands, worms that had never entered science before, and those worms were beginning to decay. There was no formaldehyde on the ship. The only thing they had was vodka. The first deep-sea hydrothermal animal samples in scientific history entered the record inside vodka bottles. Inside the submersible, Jack Corliss shouted into the audio recorder, "What are these things? This is impossible." It was impossible, and yet it was there. Today we are standing directly over that discovery. To understand why this image was such a shock, we have to remember the textbook first. In school we were told something like this. Sunlight hits leaves. The leaf performs photosynthesis. It makes sugar. An animal eats the plant. You eat the animal. That is the chain. Break it and the system breaks. Even at the end of the chain, the sun is still there. When you die, you return to the soil. Bacteria break you down. Those nutrients return to plants. The circle closes. But at the center of the circle, the same thing is always standing: the sun. This chain was taught in elementary school, repeated in high school, turned into formulas in university. No one asked why the sun, because there seemed to be nothing to ask. The answer was everywhere. The formula looked so solid that people stopped questioning it. The sun is the source of life. It was taught almost like a universal law, and that belief even shaped the search for life in space. If scientists were looking for life on a planet, the first thing they checked was its distance from its star. Not too close, not too far. Somewhere in the middle where liquid water could exist. The Goldilocks zone. The name comes from a children's story. Goldilocks chooses the bowl of porridge that is not too hot and not too cold, but just right. Astronomers borrowed that idea for planets. The right orbit, the right temperature, the right dose of sunlight. Because without the sun, life could not exist. Before 1977, the word used for the deep ocean floor was clear: desert. Oceanography textbooks describe the deep seafloor as a biological desert. Cold, dark, almost empty mud plains. Maybe a fish passed by. Maybe a worm moved through the sediment. But these were considered sparse, ordinary animals living on leftovers falling from above. None of them broke the rule. None produced its own energy. All of them were still indirectly tied to the sun. 1977 was the first real crack in that belief, because the animals at the Galapagos Rift were not running on sunlight. And there is another thing. 1977 was only 8 years after Apollo 11 landed on the moon. Humanity was looking upward at the time, at stars, at planets, at the question of whether life existed somewhere else. Part of the answer was not above us. It was below us, at the bottom of our own planet and our own ocean. No one had looked there because no one thought there was a reason to look. These animals were running on a deeper system, and that system was much stranger than you might imagine. To understand it, we have to ask one question. What were these creatures eating? The answer will change the meaning of the word food. You know photosynthesis. Light plus water plus carbon dioxide becomes sugar. The bacteria at the Galapagos Rift were not doing that. There was no light. They could not. They were using a different equation. Carbon dioxide plus hydrogen sulfide plus oxygen becomes sugar. The name is chemosynthesis, chemical energy instead of sunlight. These bacteria are not just one kind. Some oxidize sulfur, some consume methane. Each one chooses its own meal from the chemical menu offered by the vent. But at the Galapagos Rift, the dominant system was sulfur-based. And this chemical energy is not as clean as sunlight. It is hydrogen sulfide, H2S. If you know the smell, you know it. Rotten eggs, sulfur, poison. Hydrothermal vents pump this poison out from inside the earth. And this poison is the only food in that world. In the deep ocean, life does not run on sunlight. It runs on poison. That one sentence is the spine of this entire video. Now let us make it concrete. Saying bacteria perform chemosynthesis is not enough. To understand how extreme this is, you have to look at the tube worm. Riftia pachyptila. It can reach 2.5 meters in length. It has a red plume that opens like a fan. It lives inside a white tube. Around the vents, thousands of individuals can gather together. That red plume is not really a head. It is a gill. It is the only visible part of the worm from the outside. The rest of the body is protected inside the white tube. But that red plume is in direct contact with the water. It absorbs oxygen, carbon dioxide, and yes, poison. The question in your mind should be this: what does it eat? The answer is nothing, because it cannot eat. It has no mouth, no digestive system, no stomach, no intestine, no swallowing tube. This is not a defect. It is an evolutionary choice. But it was not always like this. As a larva, the tube worm has a mouth. It has a gut. It swims freely, drifting through the water column like a normal marine animal. Then it settles on a vent. And at that moment, the right bacteria enter through its skin. That infection moment is the biggest transformation of its life. Once the bacteria enter the larva's mouth, stomach, and gut begin to retreat. They dissolve. They disappear. During the transition from larva to adult, the tube worm loses all of its digestive organs. Those organs vanish, and something else takes their place. A special organ called the trophosome fills much of the body. And inside that organ, there are billions of chemosynthetic bacteria. What does the worm do? Through its bloodstream, it carries hydrogen sulfide, which is the poison and oxygen to the bacteria. The bacteria use the poison as fuel and make sugar. The worm lives on the sugar they produce. So the tube worm lost its mouth because it no longer needed one. It built its own food factory inside its body, and that factory runs on poison. But there is a problem here. Hydrogen sulfide is not just a bad-smelling gas. It is also a poison, and in the human body, it kills in a way similar to cyanide. It attaches to the cell machinery that uses oxygen and locks it, stops it. A few breaths can be enough. The worm carries this poison in its blood, constantly, for its entire life. So why does it not die? Because the worm's hemoglobin, yes, the same kind of molecule that gives our blood its red color, has a special trick. It binds oxygen in one place and binds the poison in completely different places. It carries both at the same time in the same molecule without mixing them together. So the worm's blood is like a tanker carrying both oxygen and poisonous gas through the body, and the tanker never leaks. The poison safely reaches the trophosome. There it is handed over to the bacteria. The bacteria use it as fuel. The worm operates a poisonous gas tanker inside its own blood, and that tanker never explodes. Pause for a moment and think about that. An animal with no mouth has built a factory with bacteria inside its body. Poison enters that factory as raw material. Sugar comes out. And the system is so efficient that the worm can grow 85 centimeters in a year. One of the fastest growth rates among invertebrates. 85 centimeters. That is about 6 times faster than human hair grows in a year. But hair is just one tissue. A tube worm is a full animal growing its organs, tissues, and tube. A food chain powered by poison. And there is not just one recipe in this chain. Some vent mussels use the same trophosome logic but with different bacteria. Their bacteria consume methane instead of sulfur. The same vent gives different animals different menus. One feeds on poison, another feeds on natural gas. And this is only the beginning. Now let us go to the source of that poison, because the environment itself is even stranger. Under the crust of the earth, there is magma. That magma touches cold seawater through cracks in the seafloor. The heated water pulls metals and chemicals out of the surrounding rocks. Iron, copper, zinc, and hydrogen sulfide. Then this mixture blasts out through fractures in the seafloor. How hot is it? 400 degrees Celsius. Now the objection comes immediately. Water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. How can it stay liquid at 400 degrees? Because the pressure down there is so high that the water does not boil. The phase change from liquid to gas cannot happen under that pressure. The water stays liquid, but it is 4 times hotter than boiling. This fluid erupts like black smoke. Because it contains metallic particles, it really looks black. Black smokers. And this smoke does not only flow, it builds. The moment hot fluid meets cold seawater, the minerals inside it instantly solidify. They fall out. They collect. The buildup takes the shape of a chimney. Some chimneys can grow 30 centimeters in a day. One chimney off the coast of Oregon in the Pacific grew at that speed and reached 45 meters before it collapsed, the height of a 15-story building. Scientists gave it a name, Godzilla. In 1995, it collapsed under its own weight. In another case, the submersible Alvin accidentally knocked over a 10-meter chimney. When scientists returned 3 months later, the chimney had already regrown 6 meters. Stone closes like a wound here. And now the fine detail. Only a few centimeters away from the point where this fluid comes out, the water drops to 2 degrees Celsius. The distance between 400 degrees and 2 degrees is only a few centimeters. That gradient is the border of this world. Life settles right on the edge of that border. Go too close and you die. Go too far and your food disappears. And evolution has taught different species to use that edge in different ways. Alvinella pompejana, the Pompeii worm. It lives attached to vent walls. The water around it can briefly reach 80 degrees Celsius. This is one of the most heat-tolerant complex animals on Earth. But the most striking detail is this. The worm's body does not live at one temperature. Its head is farther from the vent in cooler water, around 20 degrees Celsius. Its tail is attached near the vent wall, where the water can reach 80 degrees. The same body at the same time has a 60-degree difference between its two ends. In a human body, that would be like having your feet in boiling water while your head stays in a cool room. Not once, but constantly for your entire life. It carries symbiotic bacteria on its back. Their exact function is still debated. Some scientists think they may work like a kind of living insulation layer, like a sweater worn on its back. But how does its body tolerate 80 degrees? Its proteins are structured differently. Its enzymes are shaped to work at high temperatures. Heat is not a threat here. It is the normal condition. That is another strategy. Use the heat instead of the poison. But all of it happens in the same vent and the same world. Kiwa hirsuta, the Yeti crab, discovered in 2005, completely white. It looks furry. Why? Because the hair-like structures are actually bristle-like growths, and on those structures it grows chemosynthetic bacteria. It slowly waves its arms in the vent water and delivers sulfur, which is poison, to the bacteria. The bacteria grow. The Yeti crab eats the bacteria. It carries its own farm in its hands, and the raw material of that farm is poison. There is another member of this family, a much more extreme one. In the depths of Antarctica lives Kiwa tyleri. Its nickname is the Hoff crab because of its hairy appearance. This species lives on vent walls at densities of more than 700 individuals per square meter. Scientists gave that density a name, Crab City. But this city has borders. The water near the vent is about 25 degrees Celsius. The surrounding Southern Ocean is close to 0 degrees. The crabs cannot leave that narrow, warm band. If they do, they freeze. Imagine a city whose borders are not drawn by streets but by temperature. Rimicaris exoculata, the vent shrimp. Blind, no eyes, but it has special light-sensing organs on its back. Why? Black smokers look completely black in visible light, but they emit tiny amounts of infrared and visible light. These shrimp use the sensitive organ on their backs to sense exactly where the boiling death line begins. They stay on that millimeter-thin safety border. They do not move into it. They do not pull too far away from it. They live on that few centimeter boundary between 400 degrees and 2 degrees. That is the choice of the blind. In the depths of the Indian Ocean, at another vent field, there is another solution. Chrysomalin squamiferum, the scaly foot snail. The foot of this snail is covered in hundreds of small scales, and those scales are reinforced with iron sulfide. That means there is real iron in this animal's armor. It is the only known example in the animal world. No other known animal uses metal in its skeleton like this. This armor is fed by the toxic, iron-rich water of the vent. The snail turns the poison around it into its own protective shield. As an adult, this snail also has no digestive system, just like the tube worm. All of its nutrition comes from the bacteria inside it. One more detail. Its heart takes up 4% of its body. In a normal animal, that number is usually around 0.5 to 1%. This snail lives at only 8 vent fields in the world. Its total habitat is smaller than a large theme park. In 2019, it was listed as endangered, the first hydrothermal vent animal to receive that status. Why is it threatened? Deep sea mining. Humanity is preparing to dig into the poisonous rocks where this snail lives for the metals inside them. A creature that lives in one of the most toxic corners of the planet and turns poison into armor. And the thing threatening it is the metal inside that armor. One more vent. But this one is different. Lost City. The Lost City. It was discovered in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean in 2000. Actually, it was found by accident. During an Alvin dive, a structure appeared that was on no one's map. There is an interesting detail. This structure stands on an underwater mountain called the Atlantis Massif. Its name is the Lost City. The place it stands on is called Atlantis. It is 750 to 900 meters deep. This place does not release black or white smoke. There is a different chemistry here. Serpentinization. When seawater touches mantle rock, it starts a reaction that produces hydrogen gas and methane. There is no black metal-loaded smoke here like at other vents. The chimneys are white and cream-colored, made of carbonate rock that looks almost like limestone, like being inside a cave. The temperature is different too. The hottest point is only around 90 degrees Celsius, about 1/4 the temperature of the hottest black smokers. But the pH of the water is 10 to 11, which means it is alkaline, not acidic, the opposite. The chimneys can reach 60 meters tall. The tallest one is called Poseidon, about the height of an 18-story building. On the seafloor, in a place no sunlight ever reaches, there are 60-meter chemical towers. And these towers have been active for more than 30,000 years. At least that is what was thought. New isotope dating studies suggest the number may be much larger, 120,000 years. For 120,000 years, the same chemical reaction, the same warm alkaline water, uninterrupted. In 2023, scientists recovered a mantle sample from beneath this structure, a piece of rock from the deep planet that rose millions of years ago. Ordinary hydrothermal vents can stay active for decades to thousands of years. Lost City has been running for at least 30,000 and maybe 120,000 years. That is why some scientists see the Lost City as one of the strongest candidates for where life on Earth may have begun. Active for a long time, consistent chemistry, a protected and stable environment. Did life begin here? We do not know. But we do know this. This environment has everything life needs to continue, and that life runs on poison. Maybe right now, under the icy shell of another world, the same reaction is happening again. We will return to that idea later in this video. But hydrothermal vents are not the whole deep world. In most places, there is no hot water, no towers spraying poison, no metal-covered chimneys, just flat, cold, dark mud. A silent seafloor stretching for kilometers, 2-degree water, crushing pressure, and almost no food. So the question changes. What does life do where there is no vent? The answer seems simple. It waits. But what it waits for reveals one of the strangest rules of this world. Because across most of the deep ocean, energy does not come from below. It falls from above. And the world above only reaches the world below after it dies. This is called marine snow. It sounds peaceful, as if white crystals are slowly drifting through dark water. But this snow is not made of ice. It is made of dead plankton, fish waste, broken shells, bacterial clumps, microscopic corpses, pieces of mucus, the debris of the living world above. At the surface there is sunlight, algae grow, plankton multiply. Small animals eat them. Bigger animals eat the small animals. The chain is fast up there. There is light, there is energy, there is movement. But every living system leaves waste behind. Every death leaves a fragment. Every dropping leaves a package. Every broken shell, every torn piece of tissue, every dead plankton turns into a tiny particle in the water. Then it begins to fall, slowly. So slowly that most of this rain never reaches the bottom. It gets eaten on the way. Bacteria break it down. Small animals catch it. Larger animals eat those small animals. The deeper it goes, the less food remains. 1,000 meters, less. 2,000 meters, even less. 4,000 meters. Now only crumbs are left. What reaches the deep floor is only a tiny fraction of the energy produced at the surface. Sometimes 1%, sometimes less. It is like a giant empire sending its last bag of flour to its farthest border town. Above there is a large world powered by the sun. Below there is another world living on the leftovers of that world. And this world does not rush. It cannot rush. Here, speed is a luxury. Movement is expensive. Building muscle is expensive. Chasing prey is expensive. Even swimming in the wrong direction is expensive. Every movement has a cost. That is why many animals wait. In the darkness, almost motionless, mouth open, arms open, filters open, because something may fall from above, a particle, a shell, a pellet of waste, a cluster of dead plankton, a drop of energy. Here, food does not come to the table. Food falls from the sky, but that sky is 4 kilometers above. Some animals on the ocean floor do not behave like hunters. They do not behave like farmers either. They are more like sweepers. Sea cucumbers are one of the best examples. From the outside, they do not look impressive. Soft, slow, strange, sometimes like a cucumber, sometimes like an old sock walking across the seafloor. But what they do is essential. They eat the bottom. Really. They press their mouths into the mud and take in the sediment in front of them. They separate the tiny organic pieces inside it. They release the rest back out. In other words, they pass the seafloor millimeter by millimeter through their intestines. Imagine a city. No trucks in its streets. No garbage collection system. No sewer system. But everywhere there are slow-moving living sweepers. This is how that world works. Sea cucumbers clean the mud. Worms mix the sediment. Small crustaceans collect particles. Bacteria process what cannot be seen. All of them depend on the crumbs dropped by the world above. But sometimes something falls into this economy of crumbs. Not a crumb, a disaster, a mountain, a feast, a whale. When a whale dies at the surface, nothing may look extraordinary at first. A giant body rocks slowly on the water. Waves hit it. Birds arrive. Sharks may come. But the real story begins when the whale starts to sink. Because for the world below a whale is not just a corpse. It is an energy bomb. 50 tons, 60 tons, sometimes more. Inside one body there is fat, protein, carbon, and chemistry that the deep world may have waited years to receive. The whale breaks away from the surface. It begins to descend, first through blue water, then through the zone where light fades, then through darkness, then through a heavier darkness. As it sinks, the body becomes a shadow, huge, silent, slow. Finally, it hits the bottom. No one hears it, but the world below feels it. Because the signal spreads. Not a smell in the way we understand smell. A chemical call. Fat. Protein. Decaying tissue. The signal that long, hungry animals have been waiting for. An alarm rings in the darkness, and the bottom begins to move. The first arrivals are opportunists. The fast ones. The strong ones. The ones that can follow the chemical trail. Deep-water predators like sleeper sharks, hagfish, amphipods, isopods, crabs, animals that trust smell and chemical traces more than sight. They collapse onto the body. The first scene is almost disturbingly physical. Flesh is torn away. Skin is ripped open. Fat is exposed. Hagfish tie their bodies into knots to pull off meat. Sharks take large pieces. Small crustaceans fill the openings. After a while, the whale no longer looks like an animal. It looks like terrain, a landscape that animals crawl over, dig into, and enter. In this stage, the flesh disappears quickly, because an opportunity like this is rare. Normally, an animal waits weeks for tiny particles, sometimes months, sometimes longer. Now there are tons of food in front of it. The system works almost wildly. Dozens of kilograms of flesh can vanish in a day. Months pass, sometimes a year. Eventually, most of the soft tissue is gone. The first act of the feast closes. But the strangest part is only beginning, because when the flesh is gone, not everyone leaves. Some arrive exactly then. The flesh is gone, but the bones remain. Ribs, vertebrae, skull, jaw, huge white pieces. In the shallow world, bone is usually the last remnant, silent, hard, like the final shape of death. But here whalebone is still rich, because whale bones are oily. They contain lipids, they contain energy, like a locked safe. And now the animals that can open that safe arrive. Small worms, crustaceans, microbes. Thin layers form on the bone surface. Bacteria settle. Small animals enter the gaps. Some scrape the last tissue from the bone. Some collect the organic matter mixed into the sediment. Some come simply to live on this new surface. A whale skeleton begins to behave like a reef in the middle of a mud plain. Think about it. Kilometers of almost flat, soft gray mud, then suddenly a hard structure, raised, curved, full of holes. A city that can be lived on. In deep water, hard surfaces are valuable because there are few places to attach to. So whalebone is not only food, it is architecture. The ribs of a dead animal become apartments for other creatures. Its vertebrae become tunnels. Its skull becomes shelter. Its jawbone becomes a bacterial garden. And slowly the feast that began with flesh moves toward the chemistry hidden inside the bone. This is the most important point, because if you think of a whale fall as just a giant corpse, you miss the real event. As whale bones break down, the fat and organic matter inside them are processed by bacteria. Oxygen decreases, sulfate is reduced, and hydrogen sulfide appears. The same molecule, the same rotten egg smell, the same deadly chemical, the fuel of hydrothermal vents. But there is no vent here, no hot water, no tectonic crack, no black smoke blasting out from inside the planet. This time the chemistry comes from somewhere else, from the bone of an animal. This is one of the greatest tricks of the world below. If there is no vent, it turns the dead into a vent. The whalebone slowly becomes a small chemosynthetic station. Bacterial mats form around it, white, yellowish, thread-like layers, as if the bone is growing mold. But this is not mold. This is the new foundation of life. Sulfur-loving bacteria use the hydrogen sulfide coming out of the bone. Just like bacteria at hydrothermal vents, they produce chemical energy. Then other animals arrive, mussels, worms, small crustaceans. The whale is no longer a whale. It is an ecosystem, and this ecosystem can last for decades. In some conditions, even longer. A body dies. But here, death is not a single event. Death opens habitat. Death releases energy. Death builds a city. And one of the strangest creatures in this city uses the bone itself. Its name is Osedax. The Latin meaning is bone eater, but even that name is not enough. Because this animal does not eat bone the way we imagine eating. It has no mouth, no teeth, no stomach, no intestine. The same pattern again, the same trick again. If you do not have a mouth, you have bacteria. The female Osedax attaches to whalebone. The visible part looks like a small, feathery, reddish structure. But the real body is inside the bone. It has roots, like plant roots. But this is not a plant. It is a worm. These root-like extensions spread into the bone. They pierce it. They reach the fat inside. Then the worm does not use that fat directly through its own digestive system, because it has no digestive system. Instead, the bacteria living inside it take over. The bacteria process the fat. The worm lives on what they produce. So Osedax looks like an animal, but it works like a mining company. It mines the bone, extracts the energy inside, sends it to bacteria for refining, then feeds itself. If that is not strange enough, its reproductive system is even stranger. In some Osedax species, the males are microscopic. They do not build independent lives beside the female. They live inside the female's tube. Sometimes many males can be found inside or near one female. Tiny, simplified, almost existing only to produce sperm. Because finding a mate here is difficult. The darkness is too large. The distances are too great. The energy is too limited. So in some species, evolution has made the male smaller, hidden, and waiting. The female finds the bone. She settles onto it. A city is built. The males live there, around her, almost invisible. The entire system depends on a single whalebone. No whale, no city. No bone, no osedax. No death, no life. Now think about this scene from above. A whale dies at the ocean surface. It sinks. The first arrivals take the flesh. Then small animals work the sediment. Then bacteria turn the bone into a chemical engine. Then osedax takes root. Then new species arrive. Then the bones thin. Then they break apart. Then they mix into the sediment. And maybe 100 years later there is still a trace. Maybe different bacteria still live where the bone once was. Maybe the chemistry of the sediment has changed. Maybe an animal passing over that place still lives on nutrients left by that old death. One whale, one fall, one impact, and decades of consequence. This world does not consume death quickly. It stores it, processes it, opens it layer by layer. First the flesh, then the fat, then the bone, then the poison released from the bone. In the end, even minerals become living space. That is why whale fall is one of the strongest ideas at the bottom of the ocean, because it shows us this. Here, life does not only survive, it redefines everything that arrives. If it finds a vent, it turns poison into fuel. If it finds a crab, it builds a farm on its arms. If it finds a snail, it turns metal into armor. If it finds a whale, it turns a corpse into a city. For a long time, whale falls were imagined as isolated events. One whale dies here, another one thousands of kilometers away. Each one a separate small ecosystem. But then scientists began thinking about a larger possibility. What if these are not only isolated islands? What if on the ocean floor whale bones create a kind of passage network? How do animals spread from one vent to another? How do they move from one cold seep to another? How do they cross from one chemical oasis to the next? The distances between them are enormous. But whale falls may act as rest stops across those distances. A station, a bone island, a place to pause. An animal leaves a hydrothermal vent. It finds a whale fall. Generations pass there. Then its larvae spread somewhere else. This idea turns the deep world from a set of isolated miracles into a connected network. Poisonous vents, cold seeps, sunken wood, whale bones, all of them like invisible nodes glowing in the dark. And life moves between those nodes. From above we see only empty ocean, but on the bottom there may have been roads made of death for millions of years. The road of bone, the road of sulfur, the road of bacteria, the hidden route life uses to move from one point to another in the darkness. That is why a whale corpse is not just a whale corpse. It is a new door opening on the map of the deep world. Here we can finally see the real economy of this world. At the surface, the economy is sunlight. Light arrives, plants grow, animals eat. The cycle is fast. Below, the economy is different. If there is chemistry, life uses chemistry. If there is no chemistry, it waits for death. When death arrives, no part of it is wasted. Flesh is eaten. Fat is eaten. Bone is processed. Sulfur is released. Bacteria grow. Worms settle. Crustaceans arrive. Microbes continue. The final remains mix into the sediment. This world does not waste anything, because it cannot. Here, every crumb of energy is valuable. Every falling piece is an event. Every bone is an opportunity. Every corpse is a beginning. This may sound disturbing, but it is also powerful. Because here, even death does not create emptiness. It opens a new room for life. And now we realize something. The real rule of this world is not only living on poison. There is a deeper rule. Here, life turns its enemies into materials. Poison becomes fuel. Metal becomes armor. Darkness becomes shelter. Pressure reshapes bodies. Death becomes a city. But there is still one question we have not answered. How do these animals survive the pressure? Because we have solved the chemistry. We have solved the food. We have seen how death becomes energy. But there is still the body. Protein, cells, gas. And 4,000 meters down there are 400 atmospheres of pressure. At 11,000 meters, that number becomes 1,100 atmospheres. In the next part, we will stop looking at food and start looking at the body. Because to live in this world, it is not enough to find energy. You have to avoid being crushed.